Welcome back to the Annie Frey Show. My friend Stuart Rosenblum, Stuart's American Mortgage, Bagel Loan fame, partner and sponsor of the show. Stuie, thanks for coming in.
Wow, fame. I'm flattered.
Fame. You told me earlier you're getting noticed on the streets. So.
I know, that's a unique one, though.
I love it. Let's talk first about the Fed chair. We've got Kevin Walsh. Is that his name?
Warsh, yeah.
Warsh. He has been confirmed. He's the new guy. I don't know what that means. I know that the other guy was too late. That's all.
Powell, I think, was very much influenced by some political pressure on both sides. I don't think that Powell was cutting the interest rates as aggressively as he could have or should have. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of arguments saying that inflation didn't quite taper off to the numbers that they wanted it to be, which is the 2% target, and therefore they weren't cutting interest rates aggressively. But, the economy wasn't overheating to the point where I felt that interest rates could have or shouldn't have been cut. Okay, and so I think the new Fed chair coming in, Warsh, I think it's going to happen. People get very, very jittery when you have situations like in the Middle East and oil, and they start making accusations, the Trump administration doesn't know what's going on. What is he doing with this war? What is he doing with the financial affairs? The economy's terrible. What's going on? You got to look at it from a much bigger perspective of looking out at in. When you look back at history, you don't look at one incident and say, that president did A, B, and C, and all of a sudden everything went to heck and we don't have it. You look at the situation of this is what this president has to do in the benefit for the entire country and or the world, and therefore calm down. Mm-hmm. When we get through it, everything's going to be great, and so on. The same thing with the economy, the same thing with inflation. We're in a situation right now where the president is doing what he has to do for your benefit, for our kids' benefits, for our grandkids' benefits, for the world. Bump in the road. So when this all ends, and it will, you're going to see our Fed chair come in and say, okay, there's stability in the employment, but you know what? There's no reason not to cut those interest rates. So maybe we're delayed a little bit. Yeah. But I think ultimately you're going to see a much more dovish type of response to where the interest rates are today. That's what I think is going to happen.
How do you feel with something like a Fed chair? The president put a big spotlight on that position. The president made an example out of Powell for how he was handling it, made him kind of a villain of sorts. Do you feel like the president overemphasized the impact that the Fed chair has on all the things, or is he right?
I think the Fed chair is the second most powerful person in the country. Some people argue the most powerful person in the country because they get to determine what happens in our pockets and what happens in the economy when it comes to interest rates. When interest rates, when they don't cut interest rates, it's more costly for me and you to buy a car. If it's more costly for me and you to buy a car, we don't buy the car. If they can force the Treasury, as Carter did years and years ago, they can force the Treasury to print paper and more money. When you add more currency into circulation, you're going to get inflation, more money in the pocket, and boom. If you don't recall, you don't recall. You're too young to recall, but I kind of recall a little bit. But in the late 70s, when Carter was in, inflation hit 13-14% because he was forcing the Treasury to print money to create jobs. Right, and have the government pay people to go ahead and build roads. So this is what happens. Here we are in a situation, interest rates are higher and they're elevated because of what's happening in the Middle East and oil prices. It's artificial. It's short term. We all hope and pray it's got to get resolved. When that happens, you'll see the oil prices drop down. And I'll bet you here on the radio that once that starts to happen, all of a sudden your inflation numbers are going to drop dramatically because the cost of oil and the cost of manufacturing oil and so on and so forth is going to come down. Once that happens, interest rates are going to drop back down. The new Fed chair is going to recognize it. He does recognize that, and he'll go out and make things happen to our benefit. The old one, Powell, there's a feeling here there was a lot of decisions made based on politics and not necessarily what was good for the economy.
Yeah, I think that's where the spotlight from Trump really came onto that. And you said he's the second most powerful person in the country. That's incredible. And if you're making those decisions based on political influence or leanings or whatever, and not just what's in the best interest of the position and the authority that you have, that's a huge problem. Do you know anything about Kevin Warsh?
I know.
Is he going to be immune to political pressure elsewhere?
I think he's a very, very good choice for the middle of the road kind of interest rate that we're going to see in the future. You know, there were many other candidates that were there that would have cut interest rates a lot quicker than he would or will. And I was actually a little bit surprised in the beginning that President Trump picked him, because he wasn't as dovish as he was trying to, because President Trump was running around saying, hey, cut the rates, cut the rates, cut the rates. But I think that President Trump kind of looked at him and said, this is a great guy with a great character, and he's going to be dovish, and he's going to be helpful to the economy and not so influenced. I almost feel like Powell was making decisions to spite. And I almost feel that President Trump had to respond on that same level in order to balance what was happening. So now that he's out, you got a guy coming in. I don't think he'll cut the interest rates right away. We got to see those prices drop back from what's happening, okay? But I think maybe
what's happening? Are you talking about Iran?
The Middle East?
Okay.
Yeah, the oil prices. So I think you don't want to go ahead and cut interest rates where things overheat tremendously, really crazy. So you got to wait till those prices drop down. I think he's going to take a breather, and I think then he's going to cut the interest rates. So maybe let's hope and pray the next 2 weeks this whole thing with Iran resolves. I think the next quarter you're going to see a potential cut, or the third, or 2 quarters down, and I think it's going to start dropping back to much more reasonable interest rates.
You're listening to my friend Stuart Rosenblum, who's in studio with us. He's with Stuart's American Mortgage. He's the Bagel Loan Guy, but he is my go-to when it's all of this, the Fed and mortgage rates that are affected first by the rates that are set by the Fed. And when this change happened, I wanted to make sure I got Stuie's voice in here on this. We are asking our YouTube live chat poll question, Stuie. Does the Trump administration understand the economic state of Main Street? Yes or no? You are coming face to face because you help people get mortgages or refinance mortgages because of everything that they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. Credit card debt, it's popping right now. Lots of people have credit card debt.
Yeah, too much.
A lot of people have more credit card debt than they even know how they got because things have been less affordable.
Right.
So you deal with Main Street folks all of the time in your business, and you help position them to be effective on Main Street even more. Do you think that this administration understands, amidst all of these things that are going on, including what's going on in the Middle East, do you think they get what's happening on Main Street?
Well, I'm going to answer your question with a question, okay?
Okay.
Who is Donald Trump? He's a businessman. He has interacted historically with other businesses, with the average person off the street, on business issues. The other ones that have come in, they're politicians. They're a lot less connected to the average person day to day on what they spend and what they do. I think that the Trump administration is 100% connected to mainstream. I think they're very cognizant of mainstream. I also think that the fact that he's in the Middle East, and I may get hit for this, but the fact that he's in the Middle East doing what he's doing, you may not like it on an individual basis for the moment, but he's looking at our interest as a people, as a country, long term, not short term. I bumped into somebody on the street the other day, and they said to me, you know what? Why is he in the Middle East? This is not our fight. And you know what? That's the same argument that we had in 1933, 1935, 1939. And then what happened? You got attacked by the Japanese.
Then it came to us.
And it came to us. So why are you waiting for these circumstances to come to us? Are you that blind to think that these things won't ultimately happen? He is a smart guy. He sees this. He sees what's down the pike. He sees what's down the road. He cares about what happens with China. He cares about what happens with North Korea. These are factors that will impact us. And if you wait to the point where it actually does impact us, it's too late. So it's short term, though. He's doing what he has to do now. We pray and hope that he's going to be successful. After that happens and he gets things calmed down, then we'll be in a position where you'll see things kind of calm down and roll. But don't be short-sighted. Don't be penny-wise and dollar-foolish. Look at the bigger picture. Your great-grandchildren, your grandchildren are going to look back and they're going to say, this was the only president that actually took action that made a difference long-term. Most other presidents, they want to get through their presidency, short-term, okay, everything went great, la, 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 everything was fine. But look where we are today.
Yeah, I think, can you stay for another segment?
Sure.
Okay, because I got a lot more I want to talk to you about, but before we go to a break, I just think that what the president is doing right now is the right thing that never gets done because it's not the best political thing.
It's not. And I think truly that President Trump thinks about what his legacy is really going to be and what's right for the people at the end of the day. You think he wants to put American lives at stake just for nothing?
No.
He knows.
As
what's
evidenced
on
by
there.
all of the other military actions that he's had and the deals that he's made and gone to places across the world that maybe we haven't been best buds with. It's funny because the people who we've been best buds with have taken great advantage of us.
Total advantage.
And there are a lot of people who we've sanctioned who have not been necessarily the best buds of the United States that he's been willing to open up a conversation to ease the peace that that could potentially exist. And, you know, I think about when he went to the Middle East, like just about a couple months into his second term, where he was like, the world's better if we're all succeeding. Like
That's right.
success is good for everybody.
Absolutely. You just have to be patient. You can't be jumping the gun. Be patient. Have tolerance. Don't force the president to retract something that you know is good for you. Mm-hmm. You know, when you grew up and your parents say, hey, you do your homework every single night or you're going to get punished. Every night you had to do it. Every night you did it. If you did it, you succeeded in your grades and made you a better person for future. You know, one night, don't take the test, don't study, don't do this. All of a sudden, yeah, you can get by for that moment. But when you get into high school and college or you get married, you're not going to have the skills that you need to succeed and have the best life that you can. Here it is again. President Trump, he knows the economy is suffering. He knows that we're in a situation. But the alternative of not doing anything is a lot worse long term than what we have to. Now, this will pass. Okay? Short term, this will pass. We'll be in a better place. The economy will, I trust me when I tell you, the economy will come back full force, full steam. Interest rates are going to get cut. Things will be better for everybody long term. You just got to be a little patient. That's all.
Well, hold your thoughts right there because when we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about that was very big picture, global economic scale kind of a thing. I want to bring it back now to the folks sitting in Fenton right now or in Alton going, yeah, but what about me? How can I improve my situation? We're going to talk with Stuart Rosenblum when we come back about that, of course, with Stuart's American Mortgage. And we want your feedback on this poll. You're listening to what Stuie is saying here. I want to know what you have to say. Does the Trump administration understand the economic state of Main Street? David commented on the YouTube Live, this is the smartest person you've ever had on your show, Annie. Well, what about me? Ryan Wiggins is sitting there somewhere going, hey, that's Stuart Rosenblum you're talking about. And Rhonda commented, hi, Stuart. My husband and I refied with Stuart. Zero regrets. He's so kind. Gary Weed was amazing. They were a godsend. So we'll talk a little bit about that when we return as well. Stick around. Back in a second here on The Annie Frey Show. Welcome back to the Annie Frey Show. I've got my friend Stuart Rosenblum in here, and we're talking a lot about global economy, local economy. Our YouTube poll, does the Trump administration understand the economic state of Main Street? And so we've discussed the big things that affect that, but now let's talk about some local things. I was talking to you earlier before the show, Stuie, and you said mortgage interest rates are going up.
They are. I mean, again, this is a knee-jerk reaction from Wall Street. They think that even though the new Fed chief is coming in because of what's happening with oil, they're not going to cut the interest rates. We've been through this. And Wall Street very often tends to be reactive and short-minded all the time. I don't know how many times I've been on the show. 1 month, hey, the Federal Reserve is going to cut the rates. Oh, next month, oh, they're not going to cut the rates. And so this becomes an up and down yo-yo, and they can't make decisions, nor do they want to make decisions that are actually legitimate because they're worried about public reactions. So right now you see interest rates climbing up because they're anticipating the Federal Reserve not to cut the interest rates as often or as what we'd like them to be, but it's going to come back down. Okay, so this is obviously going to impact you because if you're going out to buy a house, you're going to pay higher on the interest rates. There's a good caveat to that, by the way, and I'll come right back to that in a moment. But when you go buy average goods, if the interest rates are higher, then obviously you're going to pay more on your credit cards. Now, the Federal Reserve hasn't raised the interest rates on short-term on credit cards and stuff like that. So if you have a credit card, I doubt you're going to be paying more just because mortgage rates are going up. So mortgage rates are based on the long-term projection, credit card rates, and car loans sometimes on the short-term projection. So I think that mortgage rates are right now climbing because of the long-term projection. I think that's a false projection. I think you're going to see them back down. But the caveat to having higher interest rates is if you're shopping for a house.
Less people in the market.
They're going to be scared. Now, if you've been in the market.
House prices, I already know the answer to this question. Calling me. House prices go down.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Unfortunately, St. Louis is the 6th hottest market in the United States, so
Unless
it's not
you're a
going
home
down
seller.
that quick.
Yeah.
But But what's happening is instead of having 10 or 15 contracts on a particular home, you may get 3 or 5. So if this continues, people are going to go running scared. Again, short-term reaction. And they're not going to want to jump in to buy the house. And all of a sudden they're in a circumstance where, hey, it's going to slow down the housing market. We don't see it right now, but these rates just climbing have happened over the last week or two. So we'll see what happens. Of course, we have that other program going out to counter it.
And that's one of the reasons also in light of the Fed chair being seated and Kevin Warsh and your comments on that. You are always trying to bob and weave and ensure that you're offering the best opportunity for our listeners out there to get the best deal on a new home purchase. So even if rates are ticking up a little bit, I think a 1% discount on the interest rate for a first year, if somebody's getting a mortgage with Stuart's American Mortgage, a 1% discount is a pretty significant discount. I don't even know how you're doing this.
It's very, very hard. But just to add on a little bit first about the higher interest rates, those people that are standing on the sidelines saying these rates are too high for me to buy a house is a big mistake. Because if you wait till the rates drop, like we just mentioned, there'll be more buyers in the market. It won't be proportional to the houses being sold. And before you know it, you're paying 10, 20% over the asking price just to get the house. Your best bet, jump into the market now when the interest rates are higher. Buy the home now, and then you can refinance later on down the road. So we created a program that is literally unheard of, because this is how confident we are that interest rates are going to drop and people are going to refinance in the future. So what we did is we rolled out a program. This is only good to June 30th. That if you lock the rate on a purchase with us, we're going to give you 1% under that rate for the first year as a payment. So if you lock it in at 6.5%, you're going to pay 5.5% for the first year. That's huge. We just locked somebody in this morning. They're saving $420 a month.
That's huge.
$420 doesn't cost any more money. Still get the bagel loan.
Like if you get that $420 back in your pocket a month, and you can now apply that extra to maybe a credit card debt or something like that,
or principal.
Yes, that's what I mean. Like you just can get ahead much quicker on things just by having that cash flow increased month to month.
It's a lot of money.
Maybe you can even buy a whole tank of gas.
There you go. It's offsetting your cost for the gas. So you have no excuse on that part. But this will allow people to go out and buy it right now and afford it. And we're so confident interest rates are going to drop down between the next 6 to 18 months that we're offering it knowing that our customers are going to end up refinancing later on down the road. It's a phenomenal program. Anybody buying a house right now, anybody should jump and take advantage of this opportunity. It's 1% lower.
Yeah.
It's huge.
And I would say, too, even if you're not sure, if you feel like you kind of know where you're headed with your mortgage lender, get a second opinion with Stuie. I have refied twice with the Bagel Loan, and there were no closing costs. So that is legit. And this opportunity to lock in this 1% lower interest rate on a new home purchase for the first year comes with the Bagel Loan. So they also don't have to pay closing costs.
That's right. You get the benefits of all worlds. Bottom line is, don't be scared.
Yeah.
Go out, buy the house of your dreams, improve your quality of life. You can do it, and don't worry, it's going to be great.
Yeah. Well, you're listening to Stuie with Stuart's American Mortgage. The number is 314-324-4440. I stress heavily that you don't mind getting texts. My generation is a texting generation. My phone rings, I panic.
That's why I give my cell phone over the radio. Why not?
314-324-4440. You can text Stuie to connect with him about a bagel loan and ask him about this 1% discount on your interest rate for the first year of a new home purchase. It's a pretty incredible deal. Like I said, I don't really know how you do it, but you are always putting yourself in a position to give customers the best opportunity to get a new home. And it's really exciting to buy a new home, and then all of this stuff happens or rates go up, and it just kind of puts a damper on everything. You're keeping it so that it's still
We're
exciting.
keeping it so it's affordable, safe. And you know what? I got to tell you, Annie, your listeners are phenomenal. When we get calls from people, from your listeners, they're great quality. They're good people. I'm very appreciative of the fact that I have the opportunity to reach out. I think those folks out there should appreciate what you do for them.
Oh, Stuie, thank you. I appreciate that. If you're interested in a bagel loan or that opportunity to get that 1% discount, the number is 314-324-4440. Call him, text him. You can just Google the Bagel Loan as well, and you'll find Stuie. Stuie, thanks for being in here.
Thanks for having me.
We'll talk to you again soon.